I opened the door of my lake cabin on a quiet Friday afternoon and was immediately met by a teenage boy wearing mirrored sunglasses, clutching a Bluetooth speaker in one hand and a six-pack of White Claw in the other. He couldn't have been more than 17. His hair was pulled into a man bun that seemed to defy the laws of gravity, and a vape pen was tucked behind his ear like a pencil. "You need to leave," he said flatly, pushing his sunglasses higher even though he was standing in the shade of my porch. "My mom said I can use this place for my graduation party. You've had it long enough." I blinked, genuinely unsure if I'd heard him correctly. "Excuse me?" He grinned, flashing a row of unnaturally white teeth. "You should have arfed to the HOA party list, dude. Now, it's my turn." I studied him for a moment, absorbing the unshakable confidence that only comes from someone who has never experienced real consequences. "And your mother is Brenda Fitzgerald," I said slowly, "the HOA president." He waved his hand toward the trees and the lake behind him. "She runs all of this. So, yeah, you've got until 6 to clear out. We've got a DJ coming." 30 minutes later, his party was shut down by 8 squad cars, 2 K9 units, and a boat patrol. Because I wasn't just the owner of the cabin, I was Chief Daniel Morrison of the Silver Ridge County Police Department, and this kid had just made the worst mistake of his short life. Let me rewind a little. 3 years earlier, after my divorce, I bought this cabin in Pine Valley Estates. It became my refuge, a place where I could fish, read, and temporarily escape the pressure of running an entire police department. Pine Valley was a gated HOA community notorious for its rigid rules. From approved mailbox colors to which bird feeders were considered acceptable, I'd chosen a cabin on the outer edge of the neighborhood, tucked between tall pines with a clear view of Crystal Lake. It was quiet, secluded, and best of all, no one knew who I really was. To my neighbors, I was just Dan, the quiet guy who kept to himself and always rolled his trash cans back on time. Then there was Brenda Fitzgerald, HOA president, self-declared community champion, and mother of Tyler, the entitled teenager now trying to seize my property. Brenda was the kind of person who measured lawn height with a ruler and mailed violation notices for wind chimes. She felt we're too musical. I'd stayed off her radar until Tyler stumbled upon my cabin while paddleboarding with friends. Apparently, he decided it was the perfect location for what he called his senior send-off, and Brenda backed him up, citing vague nonsense about community property usage. The email started 2 weeks before our face-to-face encounter. First came the gentle nudge. Brenda asked if I was finished using my cabin for the season and suggested it would be nice to share the lakefront blessing with the younger members of the community. I declined politely, explaining that I used the cabin year-round. Her next message dropped the politeness. She claimed the HOA board was discussing a new policy requiring lakefront homeowners to make their properties available for approved community events. She even attached a badly formatted document that looked like it had been thrown together in Microsoft Paint. I ignored it, assuming she'd move on. That assumption turned out to be my first mistake. The following week, a formal letter arrived on HOA letterhead stating that my cabin had been selected for the June Youth Appreciation Weekend. Tyler's graduation party was listed as the kickoff event. The letter bore Brenda's signature along with 2 other board members I didn't recognize. I responded with a firm, professional email citing actual property law and clearly explaining that private property within an HOA is still private property. I expected that to end it. Instead, Tyler began showing up when I wasn't around. My trail camera captured him snapping selfies on my dock, posing with my kayak, and even trying to pry open my shed. He posted the photos online with captions like "scouting the venue" and "this place about to be lit." On Thursday night, Brenda called me. Her voice had that syrupy sweetness that always signals trouble. "Dan, I really think you're being unreasonable. The children in this community deserve to celebrate their accomplishments. Surely you remember being young." "I remember respecting other people's property," I replied, keeping my voice calm despite my irritation. She let out an exaggerated sigh. "I tried to be nice, but the HOA has broad authority when it comes to community wellness. Don't make this harder than it has to be." "Are you threatening me, Brenda?" I'm simply informing you of your obligations as a community member." She hung up before I could respond. That brings us back to Friday afternoon. I left work early to check on the cabin easy after Brenda's call. I'm glad I trusted that instinct. When I arrived, my gate was open, my lock had been cut, and cheap tiki torches were stuck haphazardly around my yard. Inside was chaos. Tyler and his friends had turned my living room into a party hub. Neon lights hung from the ceiling, a beer pong table sat in the center, and glow sticks were taped to my mounted bass. My kitchen overflowed with red Solo cups, chips, and enough alcohol to stock a bar. Tyler was even wearing my lucky fishing hat, the one my grandfather had given me. After he told me to leave my own cabin, I stepped onto the porch and made a call. "Richardson, it's Morrison. Send units to my place in Pine Valley. We've got breaking and entering, underage drinking, and possible theft." "Copy that, Chief." "Want it quiet?" I glanced at Tyler, now performing a TikTok dance on my deck. "No, light it up." 20 minutes late. Sirens tore through the woods. Squad cars flooded the narrow lake road, lights flashing. The music stopped instantly as teens scattered in every direction. Tyler tried to run, but tripped over his flip-flops. He attempted to hide in my canoe, forgetting it floated, and drifted straight into the lake right toward Officer Martinez in the patrol boat. "I want my mom," Tyler yelled as he was pulled aboard, soaked and suddenly humbled. "Don't worry," Martinez said with a grin. "We're calling her now." Brenda arrived 15 minutes later in her white Range Rover, horn blaring as she demanded officers move. She climbed out wearing yoga pants and a live laugh love shirt, her face flushed with fury. "What is going on here?" she screamed. "This is an HOA-approved event. I demand you all leave immediately." I stepped out from behind a squad car, now in full uniform. I kept my chief's uniform in the cabin for emergencies, and this definitely qualified. Brenda's face drained of color. But you said you were." "I said I worked for the county," I reminded her. "I just never clarified in what role." "This is entrapment," she stammered. "You lied about who you were." "No," I replied calmly. "I simply didn't advertise it. Unlike your son, who advertised his break-in all over social media." I raised my phone and showed her screenshots of Tyler's posts. He'd even tagged the location. Officer Chan approached, Tyler in handcuffs. The kid looked much smaller now, his confidence gone, man bun sagging, designer sunglasses askew. "Mom," he begged, "tell them about the community property thing." Brenda tried to regain control. "The HOA has an easement on all lakefront properties for community use." "Really?" I said, pulling out my phone again. "Because I have the actual HOA bylaws right here, and I don't see anything about confiscating private property. I do see a section about respecting neighbors' property rights." Lieutenant Walker joined us, holding a clipboard. "Chief, we counted enough beer and hard liquor here for at least 100 minors." The kid even had a spreadsheet with cover charges. He was planning to make money off this. "That's entrepreneurship," Brenda protested weakly. "That's contributing to the delinquency of minors," I corrected. "And since you knew about it and tried to force me out, that makes you an accessory." "I want a lawyer," she snapped. "Excellent idea," I said. "You'll need one for the criminal charges and probably the civil lawsuit I'll be filing for property damage." I gestured toward my mounted bass, still covered in glow sticks. That fish was caught by my father in 1987. The neighbors who had gathered nearby began whispering. Someone muttered, "I told you Brenda was pushing too far." Others said, "Just wait until the rest of the board hears about this." Tyler was placed in the back of a squad car for booking. He was charged with breaking and entering, criminal trespass, underage drinking, and theft, the last charge for stealing my grandfather's hat, which officers thankfully recovered. Brenda was cited for enabling trespass and contributing to the delinquency of minors. As Officer Chan handed her the citations, she kept insisting it was all a misunderstanding. "The real misunderstanding," I said, "was thinking you could bully people out of their property rights and use your underage son to commit crimes. That should make the next HOA meeting interesting." News spread through Pine Valley estates like wildfire. By Saturday morning, an emergency HOA board meeting was called. I attended in full uniform, carrying a flash drive containing footage from my cabin's hidden security cameras. The community center was packed, standing room only. Brenda sat at the board table, flanked by her two allies, who suddenly found their phones fascinating. "I call this meeting to order," Brenda said weakly, her usual authority completely gone. "Motion to add an item to the agenda," called out Robert Jameson, a retired attorney from near the golf course. "Discussion of the president's recent criminal activities." "That's not how this works," Brenda snapped. "Actually, it is," Robert replied, holding up the bylaws. Section 12.4 states that any board member facing criminal charges must step down immediately pending resolution. "Those were just citations," Brenda argued. I stood. "Would the board like to see video footage of the president's son breaking into my cabin? Or the messages where she threatened to abuse HOA authority?" The room erupted. Neighbors shared stories of Brenda's overreach, fines for the wrong shade of beige curtains, attempts to ban bird feeders for attracting undesirable wildlife, motion to remove Brenda Fitzgerald as HOA president, someone called. Second, came multiple voices. The vote was quick and unanimous except Brenda. Even her allies voted against her, clearly trying to protect themselves. "You can't do this," Brenda shouted, knocking over her chair. "I've been president for 5 years. This community needs me." "What this community needs," Robert said calmly, "is leadership that respects the law." Brenda stormed toward the exit, then turned back. "You'll regret this when your property values plummet." "The only thing plummeting," I replied, "is your son's college prospects." She slammed the door so hard that the welcome sign fell off. The following weeks were busy. Tyler pleaded to misdemeanor charges and received 6 months probation, 100 hours of community service, and $2,000 in restitution. The judge also ordered him to write a 5-page essay on property rights. Brenda's legal problems mounted. The charge for contributing to delinquency stuck, bringing heavy fines and mandatory parenting classes. Several homeowners filed civil suits over HOA abuses uncovered during the investigation. She lost her job at a real estate firm after it was revealed she'd used her HOA position to steer clients for commissions. Her real estate license was suspended pending ethics review. Then came the forensic audit. The new board discovered Brenda had been using HOA funds for personal expenses, disguising them as community improvements. Those vision board retreats were actually spa weekends for her and her friends. She was charged with embezzlement 47,000 over 3 years. Her arraignment, she claimed it was a misunderstanding. The judge disagreed. "That's not confusion," he said. "That's a pattern." She was released on bail, but her life unraveled. Her Range Rover was repossessed. Her house went up for sale. Tyler transferred to a public school for his senior year. I saw her once more at the grocery store. She wore sweatpants, no makeup, nothing like the polished HOA president. She tried to avoid me, then stopped. "I hope you're happy," she said. "You ruined my life over a party." "No, Brenda," I replied. "You ruined your life with your choices. I just refuse to be your victim," she whispered. 5 years. "My lawyer says I could get 5 years. I felt a flicker of pity, then remembered the stolen money and the neighbors she bullied. "Actions have consequences," I said, and walked away. Last month, the trial ended. Brenda Fitzgerald was convicted of embezzlement and sentenced to 3 years, with 2 suspended. She'll serve 1 year, followed by 5 years probation and full restitution. Tyler watched as his mother was led away, finally learning that consequences are real. Today, my cabin is quieter than ever, secured with better locks and extra cameras. The new HOA board focuses on real community improvements. They even offered to reimburse my damages from recovered funds. I declined. Peace was enough. Sometimes I sit on my dock, fishing rod in hand, thinking how easily all of this could have been avoided if Brenda had accepted the word no. Instead, she's learning about property rights from a 6x8 cell, where nobody cares that she used to be HOA president.